and officially welcome you. Thanks for dropping by. So we will be talking about adatar.me, right? So first of all, what is Adatar, right? I heard someone say already they went to the website. With that being said, I think there's still a lot more that we need to explain that isn't really visible on the website just yet. And also, since this is the after town hall to our Project Catalyst town halls, I should mention that it was a Fund 6 proposal, right? So Adatar is an easy way to transfer assets within the Cardano blockchain. You think of, your ADDR1, blah, 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 right? We have a simpler mapping to map an address to an Adatar, right? So our team at Loxe launched Adatar.me, which was known as a Fund 6 proposal, Gravatar for ADA wallets, without any prior public announcements, right? Alpha versions, sales, any of that, a couple of days ago. And yeah, so why are we here? Really, Victor, Corcino, and I want to explore with the community how our adahandle competitor can drive value. So we really hope for an open and fun discussion with y'all. And I think what I can do right now is just do a quick demo. I'm not sure if everything is going to be quick because we're dealing with the Cardano blockchain, but that's how things are currently are. So let me share my screen for a little bit. And what you should be seeing is our website here for Adatar, right? We can see that, oh, we have 19 users now. So someone probably just signed up. Yay, hasn't created an Adatar yet. And thank you, Patrick. And so I'm logged in here. Let's get this out of the way. Already with an account, right? So this is the homepage. You can see a little bit of a roadmap, a little bit of an FAQ, what this is, a link to our Twitter page for the company. So, and what we can see with my personal account here that we have one, that I have created one Adatar, right? So what I'll be doing now, and there's a address associated with this. And to give you just one use case, right? So one use case is as a funded Catalyst proposals, right? Every month I make a lot of payments. And these payments, right, they go usually to the same addresses for bookkeeping purposes, right? I also do not have dozens of wallets, right? I like to keep it more manageable, especially with delegation, voting, etc. Right? It's just too much of a hassle. But what I do for bookkeeping purposes, I reuse several addresses, right? So there's also a company user, right, where we receive funds for our projects and keep track of it that way. Of course, we have multiple company wallets, but like I said, sometimes it's a little bit too much to have wallets split up for any specific use case. It's just unmanageable. So I'm going to create another Adatar here, right? So let's say I have this address used for one use case, and then I might have another use case, right? So let's create one Adatar, and let's say, so back in the day, I actually had a martial arts gym. So I ran classes, and I would also teach students in private, right? So what I can do here is I would just use my GitHub username, man on the mat, right? And the cool thing also, I think is cool, right? You're not limited through 8 through Z, 0 to 9, right? You could, if you wanted to, also get like an emoji, for example, right? Since this is martial arts kind of thing, right? I can use the emoji here. and make this actually be part of the Adatar. That will be URL encoded. So pretty much every printable character that you can put into the input form, you can utilize, except for the add symbol. And we get to that, why that is maybe later, right? But I'm not as fancy, right? Especially since I'm more of a Novi guy. I'm just gonna go with the standard format here. And then I'm just gonna grab one receiving address from where I want payments to go to or map to, right? And then I can have an optional description like choking fool since, when did I start? 2006. Something silly like that, right? And then I also have an optional avatar URL. So this is a image. Right now, it just has to be a public URL. Well, it doesn't have to be, but it would be good so the other persons can see your image as well. I'm just going to paste something that currently is stored on Google storage, right? Let's see. Yep, that looks good. This is from 2011, I believe. My last tournament in Germany. And then I create Adatar. And now I have to make a payment of 5 ADA, right? Which is, I think, a little bit more affordable than adahandle's 10 ADA on the lowest end, but then realistically it went pretty high. Since the blockchain, Cardano blockchain is a little bit congested these days. I'm actually using Dataless. So there is you can see it's disconnected up here, right? So we have integration with Nami Wallet, Flint Wallet, and CC Wallet. But I'm actually gonna copy this address, right? And off screen, just make a payment real quick with Dataless, which I say real quick, but it's still gonna take a while. Type in my spending password. I'm going to mute my microphone for that. I mean, not that it matters, but. And it's spinning, it's spinning, it's spinning. All right, so now let me move my Dataless over here. So I can keep an eye on once that is actually done. Okay, so like I said, unfortunately, transactions take a little bit longer these days. I found Dataless, I get any transaction through at least within 1 hour. But what I actually have to do right now is there is this verify payment button, right? So once I actually have a transaction ID, this is where I paste in the transaction ID, and then my Adatar becomes available. So you might wonder right now, and this was actually a debate of discussion, why this add ADA is behind here, right? So the plan is to go multi-chain, have different blockchains supported. Of course, this is a Cardano project first and foremost. So our lead developer decided to denote which blockchain this actually goes to with the native asset of said blockchain annotated. So that is that. So you also saw this copy receive link, right? So what this actually is, so I copied this to a clipboard, right? So if I open a new tab and enter this address, you can see that there's a link now, Adatar, pay, and then my handle, sorry, Adatar, right? So what happens here is that you can make a direct payment to that. There's also a undocumented version for tip, right? So instead of pay, you can say tip. It's the same functionality. It just changes the naming here a little bit. And then you can obviously pay ADA to that address. And this I deemed useful because I was in a very interesting Twitter space on Friday, actually, when we launched. there was live music. So it was in the CNT community. One of the members did a really cool rock and roll live concert, essentially cool music. And at the end of it, there was a suggestion. It's like, hey, I really want to pay you. Can you post your address, right? And it can be an address like that. It's prone to error, right? The next suggestion was adahandle, but the thing with adahandle is that there's a sale process. If you go to the website and you don't have an adahandle, you can't even get it right now. So this is a way to receive payment in an easier format, because you can have this nice URL being passed around. There's a couple of things and enhancements that are coming. Like I said, we just launched Friday. One of them is also to have a parameter, so you can kind of set a suggested default for a tip amount, something like that, right? So this is essentially the project in its current state in a nutshell. And my transaction is still trying to process. So we might get to that in a second. I'm going to stop my screen share real quick so I can see you all on the larger screen here, and let's have a discussion. Any reactions, comments? Feel free to speak up. Yeah, we're a small group, so yeah, no need to raise your hand today. I appreciate the sentiment, though.
Yeah. Hi, Matthias. It's Flawed One. How's it going?
Good.
I remember having this discussion. I got a little tied up, so I didn't actually get registered and everything yet. I've got it all pulled up, though, and I'll do it after this town hall. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And it sounds like there's probably kind of a cleaner, neater system going on than the adahandles aforementioned as well, because that's just an NFT wherever you shift it. That's kind of cool, but you did mention that later on you might have NFT functionality as well, right? So that aspect is cool, that you can kind of pick it up and move it from place to place like that pretty easily. But I can see where this is going to cover a lot broader spectrum of use cases than that adahandle does, and give you more specifics, and over time, potentially maybe even add different utility to it. So it's pretty cool. I'm interested. I popped in here first because I wanted to learn a little bit more about the process. I know we talked about it, and things just sometimes get lost in text versus conversation. So but yeah, I appreciate it, and I'm gonna spread the word about it too. I'll let Shark know, which is the artist you were referring to, about this, because it's something he can definitely benefit from. So yeah, I appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much for the feedback. And just to clarify, we'll actually be moving in Q2 of this year to NFTs. So in our roadmap, we essentially captured, or we already completed everything that we have planned for Q1. So there will be a couple of improvements that we do, but the plan is actually to move to NFT as well. That we'll mint for existing users, and then of course users going forward. And then so you have the option to move that NFT around. It's fairly simple. So two of our main developers on this project, Ganesh and Eli, have done, they were a part of the first Gimbal Labs PPBL cohort, and including myself. And we did a lot of NFT work there as well that speaks a little bit more to utility. So the authentication piece that you now see in the Gimbal Labs token-based learning project, that was essentially also developed by Ganesh last year in a proof of concept. And so we feel very confident that we can stick to the timeline, to our roadmap, and probably also develop a little bit faster. Yeah, great. Hope that Shard does a little bit more live music. That was really awesome, and then can utilize the system to receive payments. Because, like I said, adahandle, it's not accessible. They did all the partnerships, which is great. We kind of went a different route because, in reality, this Gravatar for Ada wallets project in itself that came out of a discussion that we had for our win-win dispute resolution project. How would we associate pictures with addresses on the Cardano blockchain? And then we figured, you know what, this can be a separate service that obviously ultimately ties into our main arm, which is legal tech, but at the same time, this also can bring, first of all, the developer ecosystem a good benefit, and then of course also the greater community, including the CNFT space, all of the wonderful artists that I began to meet. So I think this is hopefully very useful.
Yeah, it's another cool aspect too that I failed to mention is that you can actually attach the avatar to it like that. As you know, myself, I kind of have a brand that I go with, and it carries over in everything that I do with collaborations and stuff too. So it's kind of an important part of my public image. So yeah, that's really cool with the ADA handles. That's not an option at all. I was lucky enough to get one of those, but it was one of those cases where a friend was, I think they gave you like a certain amount of time, like you had 30 seconds or something to type in as many names as you could, and you could get that many or whatever, something along those lines. But he threw mine and a few other people's on there, knowing that others might try to grab them and do nefarious things with them, or try to grab them and sell them to us for crazy prices or whatever, which you saw that happen. I mean, it's still happening. You look at the price on some of those and it's like, dude, I'm not selling a house to buy an ADA handle. What's going on here? But they just know that they're real popular, or that someone in the community would really want that. So, you know, just like the early .com days, everyone scooped up whatever they could in the hopes of flipping it later. But that's how the ADA handles work. That's why I like the way that this works, because it takes all that out of it, like entirely.
Yeah, the interesting part also that made me chuckle a little bit is that the so-called handle standard actually has an image as well. So there's a link to an image as well. But my understanding is, just like you said, it's there. It's not implemented yet, right? So our avatar, I wouldn't say Adatar is closer to the handle standard because they do their own thing, and but it's very similar, and it's a little bit ironic that, you know, we already have pictures associated with it while the official standard does not. So a little bit of irony in there, but I wish them the best, and yeah, I think maybe there is space to collaborate on some of these initiatives and make it more useful. I will say, however, so currently, and this is always a constant of debate, right? So currently, like we don't have like a reserved list, right, of names that we know, okay, flawed one, that username should only go to flawed one, right? So we don't unfortunately have those protections as well. But yeah, in the current system, there's really no way to sell like usernames. So yeah, I have my own opinions on this whole kind of market, and it's also discussions about intellectual rights, and also it gets really complicated because we have a fairly, we give a lot of room to express like ideas, right? We have an optional description of, I think it says 250, the database actually allows for 255 characters, something like that. You can put all kinds of stuff in there, right? I always like the ideas of putting poems in there, for example, as a description. So you can get very, very creative with it. And I think there's an opportunity to maybe support Markdown, something like that, even in the description. There are many ideas. One thing that I would like to share real quick is, let me share my screen again. All right. So we have issues. So I said, you know, there's a lot of issues that we're working on. So luckily there are no bugs currently, right? But oops, here we go. Sorry, Zoom is acting up a little bit. So we have still 31 issues open for the front end part, right? And most of them are just enhancements and kind of UX kind of thing, and just scroll real quick over these, right? So we have already quite a bit of things that we know we want to work on. But on the other hand, if you don't feel comfortable, of course, sharing right now what you think we should be working on, or a good way to get in contact with us is just our Twitter, right? Loxe Inc. I'm gonna post that in the chat in a bit. And then also email address is contact@loxeinc.com. So that way you can actually reach all the officers in our organization. So let me put that in the chat as well. That's a good way.
It's a pity to have these breakout rooms. It's so difficult to choose.
Yeah, thanks for dropping by, Heinz.
I missed the whole point probably.
Oh, not yet, because I posted a transaction on the, or I'm trying to post a transaction to the Cardano blockchain, but it's still spinning. So, but I'm already in my data list wallet at the red state where it says, this transaction has been pending for a long time to release the funds. So usually it only takes a few minutes afterwards for the transaction to finally go through.
Yeah. So I have a question,
Yes,
and so in your FAQ it says that you cannot change the transaction address once you've created it. So that's right.
That should be correct. Yes. So you create the way it works is so we have several receiving addresses for wallets that for our Adatar me wallet that, by the way, delegates to a Cardano AIM stake pool. So we expect the payment to go, the 5 ADA to that address, right? So where it says where to pay or verify payment rather, right? It tells you where it goes. Let me see. So the UI changed a little bit. Okay, so there's an activate button. So just in case you clicked it away, right? Because once you create the Adatar, it'll show you the payment address, right? Which you should make the payment to. If by accident you click it away without making a payment, there's an activate button if the Adatar is not activated yet, and you can make the payment to that address. Or are you referring to the receiving address?
To the payment receiving address of the Adatar, but makes complete sense that you cannot.
Got it.
Sorry for making it complicated.
Oh no, it's not complicated at all. We actually, changed the language a little bit because I ran into the same issues. It's like, which payment address are we talking about? Yeah, that is true. So right now, actually, one of the enhancements that we want to do, as long as the Adatar is not activated yet, what you will be able to do is actually to change your description, also the URL of the avatar, possibly the receiving address. Actually, maybe that could be a potential. Once it's activated, then not really. There will be probably a future where you can still do that for a fee. And that the reason behind that is once we move to the NFT functionality, right? In order to update like the metadata essentially on the Adatar, you would have to send another transaction, which again involves fees. So we probably go that route, and that should happen probably. Actually, I can make comments on that. Victor would know when that would happen.
My connection is
I only heard something for my connection, Victor. Is it your connection or my connection?
I just have to say.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, transaction still spinning. Welcome to Cardano. But I'd rather have that than personally than, you know.
And another question, maybe because I'm not familiar with how adahandle is doing their stuff now. So it's in NFT metadata, and that's where the info for the Adatar is stored, you said. And is it easy to just, so could you send stuff to this address from any wallet, or just the 3 you mentioned?
You can send Adatar from any wallet to that wallet. So yes, it was just a receiving address on the blockchain. So there's no special magic. But I should clarify that currently, since there's no NFT solution yet, a lot of data is actually stored in traditional storage, right? So let's see, I think we should have it in the FAQ. Where's the data stored, right? So we're kind of in phase 1, right? Just launched. And the FAQ says in phase 1 launch, the data is stored in a registry outside the blockchain. We could have been a little bit more specific there. But we are on Google Cloud Platform, right? So a lot of the data is actually currently being stored in a traditional database. But once we move to the NFT solution, that data will be minted and transferred over onto the blockchain. So what happens, since we already have, of course, the mapping from a Adatar to a receiving address, we can mint the NFT and send it over to the receiving address. And then from there, Adatar works with the data on the blockchain and not in this more traditional web stack.
And so to send stuff to a specific Adatar, at the moment you need to be on your website and click on the pay to Adatar stuff. But can you do this directly from the wallet as well? I mean, I just imagine it being like, okay, I just type in Matthias Sieber and then off we go, and the wallet somehow recognizes.
Yeah, not currently, but there's actually conversations with one of the less popular wallet creators. We initiated that a couple of months ago, that we would like to collaborate on that, and that conversation has to be continued. But yeah, that discovery within a wallet, that would be a very nice feature. I would think that if this gets adopted by the community, that is something that will lead to something that wallets creators want to support, and that probably should come through a SIP, but sometimes, you know, it's also that wallet creators offer a feature. It's kind of like a proprietary feature without a standard, and the standard will come later. So I can see that happening as well. But really, in order for that to happen, there would have to be greater adoption.
Great, thanks.
Or something that would allow for plugins, right? Where there's a API standard, a formal specification where you can say, similar to how you add extensions to your browser, right? They follow a specific format. If something like that would be allowed for wallets, then that is also a potential path to then type in a username, you have a discovery phase, and then you can just make payments that way. There's also something else actually that we were thinking about. as a company to also create a wallet that actually allows to always have a fraction, either a percentage or kind of like rounding up, and pay essentially to a charity, NGO, something on that source. And if we were to create a wallet, then of course we would also have an Adatar integration. But that's how likely that is that we actually execute on that. We'll know within the next week or so, and also a timeline. Oh, I just noticed my transaction went through. So let me just grab the transaction ID, and then I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so, all right. So let's see. All right, we got 11 confirmations. That's good enough, right? So let's grab the transaction ID. And let's go back to my Adatars. Oh, I already did. Okay, another issue to write down. But verify payment. I paste in the transaction ID. Verify payment. And I'm verified. Hooray. So now if I may pay to Adatars, right? And then say, show me man on the mat. There I am. Live demo successful. So that worked. Didn't take that long. Right. So that's all I have. Are there any other questions, comments, requests?
No, I got to step out for another meeting, Matthias, but Friday at 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, that space will be on again if you want to hop in there and enjoy some more live music.
Nice, definitely. Maybe we can start tipping using Adatar then too. That'd be awesome.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
So when I create my Adatar, I basically have to insert my receive address, which is basically my Cardano public address, the public address of my wallet. Do you think there is this is a general question. Do you think there are related risks?
Very good question, right? So yeah, so what only is shared is you're receiving an address, right?
And the description.
Yeah, and the description, right? Which is not verifiable by any means, right? So it's not like only because someone said, hey, you know, I'm Patrick and I receive all the funds that, you know, you get invitation by your local authorities and say, it's like, hey, you know, you received all the funds. Can you explain that why you didn't, you know, that didn't show up in your tax return, something like that, right? So I think it's a very valid question. So the use case is really to, if you have payment addresses that you reuse, which is not always the case, right? But if you have payment addresses that you reuse, a receiving address is something sensible that you can use. Like I said earlier, I use it. I use one wallet, but for different projects, right? I use it to pay contractors and employees as well. If you're comfortable always receiving to the same address, it is a huge time saver for me. Where there's, you know, like triple checking that the address that they entered is the same, and it's a time saver for me. So the risk is, okay, you can check, you know, you can create a blockchain and, you know, okay, you have an association and, you know, for example, that this receiving address belongs to Patrick, right? So you can see that all the transactions that went to that address, and there could be a danger, right? In that now it became public knowledge what you would receive. So I would say it's, I think it's an individual risk that you have to evaluate there.
Yeah, that somebody can link, say, this amount paid to this receiving address with kind of your identity. That is the individual risk you're mentioning.
Yes, that is a potential, right? Right. So if you, of course, know, as a matter of fact, that the only thing that I would say is, I'm not too sure. I guess in a way this service encourages to reuse payment addresses, right? Which for some people that is bad form. For me, having several successfully funded Project Catalyst proposals and doing a lot of bookkeeping, and having by the end of the month to do my taxes for the corporation, this is much easier to deal with because it saves me a lot of time, and because I do have that association. So yeah, I would say it's an individual risk.
Yeah, and one last question, sorry for bothering. I said that you can just upload an URL for an image. Sorry, I'm wrong. You can just send an URL that points to an image and cannot upload. Is this related to your future development that you want to add NFTs?
Yeah, so for the initial next step, so the NFTs will also have, of course, that data on the URLs. If you're asking for whether we ship or allow for file upload of images, for example, we're not exactly sure how and when we're going to do that. In the main session of today's town hall, there were issues mentioned with IPFS, right? So currently, I don't think there is a great storage solution that would work for us at the moment. But it is something that we explore because, again, for our kind of main thing that we do, a dispute resolution marketplace, right? Especially when we move towards arbitration. Right now, we are focused very much on mediation, but arbitration will be big next year for us. We need to know more. There are more like hard legal documents, right? And where to store those, how to make them accessible to only the appropriate parties. But really, have the ability to keep those documents around forever, right? And IPFS is obviously not the right solution for that. So that is, we're still in an exploratory phase in that regards. We might just offer, for example, to temporarily at least upload the files to our Google Cloud Storage, which again is not ideal either, right? It is more the traditional web stack, which isn't necessarily bad, but I mean, we're in the blockchain space for a reason. So yet to be seen.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Great question. Thank you for that. All right, let's see. No hands up. Does anybody else have a question? Or Patrick, do you have another question?
Yeah, well, that's just for talking. You mentioned this adahandle, and I saw that I didn't actually saw the prices, but I saw they finished their 15,000 stuff NFT/handles that you can buy. But that's for out of curiosity, how much were they selling?
I don't actually know how much they ultimately I don't know the whole range. I know the minimum was 10 ADA, but they also, I think shorter handles were valued higher. There was also not a way to, so for example, we just looked for, okay, is the handle ADR, can we get a handle ADR? And I don't remember if it was too pricey or it was just not possible. Maybe it was a protected handle. Victor, sorry, you're quiet again.
I think it was.
I didn't hear you.
I think it was.
It always cuts out after I think it was.
Yeah. Well,
$200. $100.
$100. Okay, thank you.
well,
Right.
thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's a very good idea.
Right. So ADR, and we looked at it and I was like, well, do we want to support it really? And, you know, I think they did it right. They, in terms of marketing, there's so much to learn, right? But, you know, Patrick, you've seen us, you know us, we're not really the hype people. So it was like, do we really want to do that? Do we want to seek all these partnerships? And like I said, I have nothing against these people, right? They did a good interview on Hashoshi, right? I went to Hashoshi, great guy to interview with. But then, you know, all the pre-sales, pre-sales, alpha, beta, public, beta sale, I don't know. To me, it's too much. And for me, it's like, dude, this is a fairly simple project. And so I think for us, there was a lot to learn how not to do things, because that's the other thing, right? I guess in their defense, you could say, or criticisms to us is that, well, we took the safe route, right? We didn't do any big announcement. We just launched, right? We didn't tell anyone. I think I made it. I said it in the coordinator chat to say, it's like, yeah, you know, and next time we speak, we probably have launched.
And it's functional. It's actually simple to use. Okay, apart for the price, that if I get to their website, they say, okay, you cannot get an handle anymore. And on your website, I can just get there, put my address, and then that's it, basically. But yeah, it's definitely more simple because there is not the buy step for now. Yeah, I think they're equivalent from my point of view.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, that I need to pay.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing, right? Because as Vlad mentioned, like the suggestion with Shard, the musician or artist, right? The suggestion was, hey, just get an ADA handle. And I was like, well, can you even get an ADA handle now? Because the public sale is not open. And I guess, yeah, it's for me personally, like I said, you know, I think ADA handle is great that, you know, there was excitement about it and there's still excitement about it. It's a little bit too much because the other side is also people were really excited and wanted to get the ADA handle, and they had to wait like more than 10 hours for an email. So they then can click on a probably already expired link to claim their handle and do all that stuff. And it was a really, really bad experience for many users, right? For many people who were genuinely excited. And since this is not our main goal, right? We don't think we'll change the world for using Adatar. Are we going to make it easier for artists like Chart, for example, to, you know, get a little money for the performance? Absolutely, right? And that might have a trickle effect. But again, for us, it's like, this is a side project and something that we want to keep on building up and make it more useful to the community, and then also open source it eventually once we feel it's you know, people can properly use it and extend it, and we've, you know, removed the biggest kinks, the biggest issues, right, and hand it off. I think Ada Handle's approach is very, very different. They try to run a business on Ada Handle, which is totally cool. It's not the type of business that I want to do. So that's why I'm also that's why I sound critical. And again, it's just my perspective, right? I think they did a lot of things right. They did a lot of things wrong as well.
like your point, because the people, like you said, artists, content creators, they can just put the link like buy me a beer. That will be the equivalent. And yeah. Your business is definitely, I can see, is based on other stuff. Just out of curiosity, what if in the, okay, what is the limit of the input text in length that you can put on the optional avatar URL? And what I'm going is, what can you insert in that URL? Can you insert data that can be rendered in a particular way?
Great question. So let's see. I'm not exactly sure on the data limitations, but I think what you're getting at is that, and this is actually something that I wanted to explore as well, that you can essentially insert the image data yourself, right? Because you can, of course, encode a PNG image as a data stream, right? That's something that I think is super awesome, right? But then, you know, instead of having, I don't know, a 2048 character, I think that's the URL limitation in the browser. I'm not exactly sure. It used to be around that. But now you have a 16 kilobyte or something like that, right? But you have a cool tiny logo or something like that as encoded image data. Not quite sure, but Victor, we should make a note to surface those limitations better. Yeah, on the top of my head, I don't know.
And one more thing I wanted to, is just an idea, but you know, just pulling out ideas out of my mind. I'm always I've always been thinking that NFT, I think, have value when there is a scarcity, but hear me, in the sense that you cannot make two images that look the same but differ only for 1 pixel, in a way that you know, the image kind of brings uniqueness somehow. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That would be really an awesome feature to have.
That would be certainly an awesome feature. I wonder who is working on that right now, because yeah, I mean, you're talking about a well known problem in computer vision as well, and that would be something that would be very interesting. Definitely, I agree. That's good. One thing that I wanted to read here, because Victor posted in the chat some of Adahandle's pricing, right? So legendary, 1 character, is an auction only. So there was an auction, or there will be an auction, I don't know. Ultra rare, 2 characters, 500 ADA. Rare, 3 characters, 100 ADA, right? Common, 4 to 7 characters, 50 ADA. And then basic, 8 to 15 characters, 10 ADA, right? So that's the pricing. So, and I think it's only A through Z, and then 0 to 9, something like that. And of course, the combinations of that. And like I said, to me, it was a little bit ridiculous. So at the same time, there's no, well, that's the thing. So there's no recurring revenue for us as well, right? So as a business, it's terrible. But I think I'm not sure if they implement it in a smart contract, but there is essentially a royalty that is not enforced, my understanding. But if you sell an ADA handle, I think there's a percentage that at least gets suggested that is to be paid to ADA handle as well. Of the sales price. And yeah, it's an interesting way to make revenue, because that's the other thing, right? If we were to host like images on Google Cloud, right, and yeah, we just have to crunch numbers and see what makes sense. And I think if the the community really values the service, there's always going to be funding opportunities. Because we even have an adatar.me Adatar. So if you like the project, maybe you use, hey, tip to adatar.me if you like the service. But yeah, like I said, we see we're still young. We just launched on Friday, so
I'm looking forward to create an Adatar and put it on I don't know, my web page and something like buy me a beer.
Yes. So widget creation is actually also something that we definitely want to do, to have that. Right now it's just a link, but yeah.
Hey, thanks for having this idea and sharing with the community.
Yeah, thank you for participation. Really appreciate it. Oh, we have Eli here.
Yeah, I've been here, but I'm at the cafe, so we had a service outage in the neighborhood. So,
can you answer? So Eli is our CTO. So we have the whole officers here. Victor Corcino, by the way, is the CEO of Loxe. I'm the CEO. So all officers are
I
present.
did search about you while you were talking. I'm basically the only one not from Loxe.
Now there's so many great breakout rooms today. Eli, do you know on top of your head the limitations of the Avatar URL? Do you know?
I kind of think it's 255 or 250. So not much of an image could be stored in there. But let me double check the backend right now, and then I will
Okay. If it's in fact as 255, which I think is the limit for the description and maybe even the Adatar name, we probably at least want to up it to URL limitations, which I believe are around 2040. But of course, there was also the suggestion to, of course, make a much larger string so that the actual image can be stored as well. I'm not exactly sure we want to go that route, but it is very interesting.
Yeah. Storing images in as a blob in a database is not usually advisable, right? Because of speed of lookup and stuff like that. But I mean, for our use case, it's probably not terrible, but it doesn't bring the same sort of security that having it stored on something like a S3, Google Cloud Storage, something like that. Yeah.
Would probably still be better than IPFS.
Yes, would still be better.
Oh, everybody's so against IPFS.
I just think
potential, but right now
I think it's just slow.
I started learning about IPFS like 5 or 6 months ago, when we started kind of creating a proposal for Cardano, and I started watching all videos, and there were some videos claiming that IPFS could be fast or even faster than traditional client server. I was totally convinced because it was this guy like with a reputation, let's say. But in practice, it's not the way. You cannot serve files from IPFS, or it is very expensive, I guess, if you want to have them fast. And I heard there are also other solutions, but what do you have in mind for Web3? I mean,
I don't know for sure, if they resolve a lot of the issues with the IPFS, then maybe, but I don't know specifically for saving the files, other than having small files that could be stored on our database, or having some alternative storage solution. I'm not sure yet.
Eli, the problem is that so IPFS is supposed to be distributed,
Right.
While the database is centralized. It tends to be centralized.
Right. Yes. No. In terms of Web3's storage solutions, I don't know of any that really work yet. So we may be stuck with the centralized system until we find a solution that actually works Web3 wise. So I don't know of any right now that's going to be successful. But I would like there to be one. I would love there to be one, and we're staying, as informed as possible about the potential for them. But I don't know. I don't know what it's going to turn into. Right now, I'm looking up the storage limits on the back end for our URLs, so that's why I'm a little distracted. So sorry about that.
I know, but you're right. Just like I mentioned earlier, this is really this is something that we need to explore and want to explore anyway for our other projects as well. And once we are smarter about it, that's the latest we probably bring that to Adatar as well.
Okay. Thanks for your time. I'm going to leave you, and congratulations for what you're building.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.